So there's this show called America's Game. It was this show it's kind of a documentary of all the NFL teams that have ever won a Super Bowl. They take 3 players, they interview them, and they go through the season and all that. I can't remember what episode it was. It was like there was it was one of the Cowboys ones, and it was either the 1972 one or the 1978 one. And it was right when fashion was starting to get a little bit more modern, and so there was this Cowboys defensive end guy who was in a meeting, and someone asked him, "Hey, why are you wearing sunglasses in a dark room?" And he's like, "'Cause I'm cool. And when you're cool, the sun's always shining." Just the best, man. Yeah, that anecdote probably would have been a lot better if I had been shooting this in the middle of the night like I was earlier. Ah, man, reshoots. Why you gotta do this to me? So welcome back to another episode of Why Don't You Love? We are, of course, talking about Baby Driver this week. I've been hyping this thing up on social media for a while now. We are talking about it. I'm keeping the shades and the earbud in for the entire time. Jeremy Johns did it for the intro. I'm doing it for the whole thing, because I'm already always wearing glasses, so I always got the glare. I can't do it with both earbuds in, though, because that would be just... I'd be completely deaf and blind while doing this. I'd sound like this the entire time! So Baby Driver is written and directed by Edgar Wright, who is pretty much at this point my favorite director. We just went over my short film that I wrote for the 10-10-10 competition this year, and that short film was very heavily inspired by what Edgar Wright does. Both from a writing perspective, from how I envisioned some of the scenes going, to how Leah directed it, with some of those shots in there. Sure, we had our own style to it, but like really a lot of it was inspired by what Edgar Wright does, because he's a really cool filmmaker. He made the Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and At World's End, I believe. Is it The World's End or At World's End? No, At World's End is the Pirates of the Caribbean thing. It's The World's End. He also did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is another really underrated, fantastic movie that I should probably do on this show at some point. But there's a couple of key things that you will always find in an Edgar Wright film. First off, it's usually a genre film. Edgar Wright doesn't make parodies, but he does like to play off of tropes, and he does like to kind of subvert things. Shaun of the Dead was a very different kind of zombie movie. Hot Fuzz was kind of a murder mystery, also kind of making fun of Bad Boys and some of the over-the-top, like Michael Bay action movies. The World's End just completely flipped a whole bunch of stuff upside down as far as, even within the trilogy, like who typically played who. Like Simon Pegg is usually the responsible guy, and then he's the total, just unhinged maniac of the group in this film. So you get that. And also, even though all of Edgar Wright's films have comedic elements to it, he doesn't really have that... How do I describe this? He doesn't have the long pause in between jokes. Like typically in a comedy, like you walk in, you're expecting a comedy, you're expecting to laugh, you sit down, someone will tell a joke in the movie, and then there's a pause because they know the audience is gonna laugh and they don't want people to miss the story. Edgar Wright doesn't really do that. The story keeps going on, and really all of the comedy comes from the characters and from the situations and the absurdity of what's going on. At no point in any of Edgar Wright's movies, at least that I've seen, has the story completely stopped so that the characters can tell a joke. Everything feels like a natural progression of what's going on in this world. Another thing you typically get in Edgar Wright movies is just fantastic worlds. The environments in Edgar Wright films are always a character in themselves. The background characters, the way that the world functions, it adds so much depth to the comedy and to the quirkiness and to the story in general of all of these movies. And in all of these aspects, Baby Driver is no different. This is such a fun movie, and it's so great. As you've probably seen in the trailers, the whole story of the film is, it's essentially one of those stories like Drive, but kind of more like those old school heist movies. Essentially, it's the story of this kid who grew up in crime and grew up being a getaway driver. He's got one more job for the boss, and then he'll be off. Or will he? Because can you ever really escape the life of crime? But the big gimmick of this film, and I don't say gimmick dismissively because the way that it's used is fantastic, but the big gimmick of this film is that the main character got in an accident when he was a kid, and so he's got this condition where he constantly has ringing in his ears, and so he plays music to drown it out, so he always has music playing. And as a result, that affects the way he looks at the world around him. Like everything syncs up with the music. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but you go back and you watch this multiple times, you notice more and more like stuff that you can barely hear in the background, like stuff that you have to go to the theater and listen to surround sound, like that'll match up with the drum beat, or this side character, like you'll barely hear them say like, oh yeah, or something that like matches up with the lyrics of the song. It's nuts, man. The attention to detail on this thing is just, it's incredible. And it's also kind of relatable because, I mean, You're doing things around the house, you're doing chores, you're just driving in the car. I mean, we all listen to music. We all use that to kind of pass the time. And this movie does a great job at showing just how communal that is and how universal, like, a love of music is and how it can bring people together. And I'm guilty of having earbuds in, like, not 24/7, but a pretty significant amount of time as I'm going around the house doing stuff. Although my version of this film would be a little different because I'm mostly listening to podcasts rather than music. So instead of me walking down the street and, like, there's the trumpet solo, and I'm walking past the store, and like, oh, that's synced up with that. It'd be like, I walk down the street, and like, Mr. Sunday Movies pops out of a garbage bin. Hey, Mason, there's another Transformers movie. Oh, no. Hey, would you get lost, Mason? Gotta give it a Googs, mate? Give it Googs for direction? Give it Google Maps? Alright, we passed Crenshaw Boulevard, and now, ooh, we're up to 16th Street now. But who would build this road? Okay, this gag has gone too far. I'm sorry. The whole movie is like an opera. It's like, except, well, I mean, they're not singing. It's the background music that's singing, but the world sings along with him. It's so fun. It's especially in certain action scenes, which I should probably get into. The action in this movie is the best that Edgar Wright has ever done. So that action shot in the trailer, this thing of beauty. Yeah, that's just a taste of what is to come in this movie. Holy cow. Aside from everything completely syncing up to the music, no, actually, no, I'm not gonna put that aside. That is worth talking about some more. Gunshots, footsteps, car movements, car squeals, tire squeals, looks, movements. Everything matches with the rhythm of whatever music is going on during an action scene. In the opening, you get some cool car action stuff, and you get it even more as the movie goes on, but then you get it with character development, and with symbolism. Holy cow, the second to last thing in this movie, the second to last big chase thing, I guess it is, the entire third act is one giant action scene that just takes little mini breaks in between. But really, the last heist in this movie is just, it's insane, it's beautiful, everything matches up, just, ooh. Jaw-dropping is a term I never use, but I legitimately had my mouth hanging open a couple times because I'm like, that was so perfect! There's just such a rhythm to it, there's just such a... man, it's such an engaging world that Edgar Wright made in this movie. So action is fantastic, the world is fantastic, the characters, they're pretty solid too. Dare I say, they're pretty great. Ansel Elgort, I believe is his name, he played Baby, he is going places in the world. He's not the Fault in Our Stars guy anymore, this is legit actor man right now. He and Edgar Wright came together to make one of the most likable characters in years. Like, within 15 seconds of this guy being on screen, you're like, yeah, no, this is a cool guy. I'm not gonna give away too many spoilers, but there's a decision that could have been made in the beginning where it could have been like, okay, this guy can be Ryan Gosling from Drive, or it can be a little bit more. He can be a more complex character who isn't always just angry or sad or something. I'm not saying Ryan Gosling in Drive is two-dimensional. I'm saying he could have been a ripoff of that and then just be like, oh yeah, I'm quiet, that's my thing. All of these characters feel like fleshed out characters who have their own philosophies and their own way of going about things, and they all stem from where they are in the world. Baby loves music because his mom was a singer and there's a tragic backstory there, and so that's why he's so attached to all of this music. And he doesn't talk a lot, both because, hey, he kind of grew up in this business and he knows, A, he doesn't have to say much, B, you say the wrong types of things, you can piss off the wrong types of people, and C, he's living with a stepdad who is deaf, and so he doesn't really say anything through most of the day. He's given sign language, which is another interesting irony because he's constantly blasting music and his stepdad is like feeling the music through the speakers when he's blasting it. And so their whole dynamic is fantastic. The thing with the criminals, the main three partners that we see in this movie, there are other guys going on. There are other people who come in and out of these jobs, but the three main people who stick around, you get their philosophies. You're like, I really don't like you, but I get why you do what you do. And then there's one character in particular, like, I really like you, and then he turns out to have a different side to him where you're like, oh, that makes sense. Why didn't I see that coming? And the actors who play these characters do a fantastic job. I already mentioned Ansel Elgort, and I just want to say Lily Collins, she did a really great job. Some people were annoyed by her, I didn't get that. I think she was just the right amount of cheesy and kind of sentimental and cynical and just, I don't know, I liked her character, I liked the way she played her character. I think she could have easily been annoying, and for some people people she was, but I didn't get that. I bought their romance. I bought their chemistry together. But I also want to say, holy cow, Jon Hamm. Dude. I saw maybe half an episode of Mad Men, so I don't know what we were working with going in here. I never really got into Mad Men. I'm sorry. I was kind of underwhelmed by the little bit that I saw. Maybe I should get into it. But Jon Hamm stole the show in a couple of moments. I'm not saying this is the Jon Hamm show. It's one or two scenes, but when he gets a chance to really like show off his character, holy cow, he can really just get a hold of the scene and just it's gripping to watch. I don't want to get too much into all that he does because some of that is spoilers, but man, it's just interesting to watch the different layers of the guy. And so he plays a character called Buddy. We've got Eliza Gonzalez, I believe is her name, as Darling. We've got Jamie Foxx as Bats. We got some other people. We had JD Grip. I don't know what the other guy's name was. No-Knows somebody. I don't know. Just they were all kind of fun code names, and of course they did in a way kind of they led into some wordplay and they led to some kind of clever in-jokes, but they also were kind of interesting ways to show their characters. It was almost like Edgar Wright was putting up layers to like, okay, here's kind of a little teaser to say, hey, you should probably look into some of the metaphors here because this guy is named this and this girl is named this. What does that mean? How does that contrast with how they actually act? Really, everything for this movie is going great except for that ending. I don't know. The last action scene, fantastic. The very, very end, though, I don't know. The main complaint in Jeremy John's review was that it felt like it went on for 10 minutes too long. I don't really know, man. Like, is there a graceful way to dismount a roller coaster after you've been going 150,000 miles an hour? Well, not that fast, you die. But you're going, and 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 eventually you have to stop, and you have to do it in a way that wraps up these characters' story arcs. Because the main characters here are so likable that if you don't give them a proper ending to their story, then it's not just tragedy, it's going against, really, that'd be a point down against this movie. And I'm not saying I don't like tragedies. My favorite movie of all time, The Grey, is a fantastic example of a movie that has tragic elements throughout and could have a tragic ending or it could have a hopeful ending depending on how you look at it. I've got no problem with sad movies. It's just that here it would feel so inappropriate given the fun time that we had and how much these characters deserve a resolution. He could have. Edgar Wright could have just been like, no, screw you. This would have, this is how the movie ends, and it'd be like, I hate that, but the rest of this is fantastic. So no, I get why it went on a little bit longer than it should have. I'm not saying it should have gone on for another 10 minutes. I'm saying it should have gone on for another 30 seconds. Like, literally, the last bit of the movie, I'm like, oh, credits. Has there been something else? Is there like a thing in the No? Okay, I guess we're going home now. The teeny tiny faults in this movie that you could find if you really nitpick, if you really look for them, if you really want to find them, are dwarfed by all the positives this movie has going for it. There's so much attention to detail, there's so many layers, there's so many great things going on. The theme of the movie, Edgar Wright has this consistent thing throughout all of his movies where it seems like all of them are about growing up in some way, and the more I thought about it, the theme of this movie is actually really interesting. Let me know what you think about this interpretation of it, but I feel like it's about accepting reality, as harsh as it may be. Because in a way, Baby really spent much of his life kind of hiding in his music and hiding in his escapism. And at some point throughout this movie, he is forced to acknowledge reality, acknowledge certain things. And the thing about reality is it's never really as good as we would hope, but it's not always as terrible as we would fear it is. Sometimes it's somewhere in the middle range as far as consequences for our actions and those sorts of things. And it also kind of shows sometimes there's consequences for things that are slightly out of our control, which is a difficult thing to grapple with, but is an interesting theme for a movie. At what point are you a victim? At what point are you an active participant in things? I don't know, there's a lot of interesting things going on in here amidst the coolest action scenes you will see ever. It's Edge of Tomorrow meets John Wick meets Hot Fuzz meets a surprisingly deep movie that I can't complete the metaphor, I'm sorry. I have no hesitations about saying this movie is the best movie of 2017 so far. How does it stack up against Logan? Well, I mean, it's as far as emotion, as far as storytelling, as far as intriguing plot lines and themes, I mean, yeah, I'd put this above Logan. And also, it's not as depressing to watch, so I mean, there is that. That's not to put Logan down. Logan is a fantastic movie. Logan is up here, Baby Driver is up here. Is that even in frame right now? Great characters, great action, great subtle character-driven humor that you don't initially think about too much, but then once you reflect on it, you watch a couple more times, it's hysterical. It treats you like you're a smart person. I don't know what else I can say about this, guys. What else can I say to get you to watch this movie? It's the best. Go watch it. It's a Sony movie, and you know how I feel about Sony. When I watched the movie for the first time on a Tuesday afternoon in a basically empty theater, I saw the Sony logo and I hissed. Dudes, Sony getting their fingers on this had me so scared. I was all aboard the hype train and then like, oh, that's how this can get ruined. That's the other thing too. I went into this movie with high expectations of like, this is gonna be entertaining. I didn't think it was gonna be the best movie of the summer. I legitimately was not expecting that. And I'm a little worried because I was expecting this to get like La La Land levels of, okay, we get it, like advertising all over the place, like, okay, we get it, it's a great movie, stop, leave us alone, stop advertising on every street corner. But I haven't seen a ton of advertising for this movie, guys, and now Sony's pushing Spider-Man this weekend, and I really want this movie to do well at the box office. Spider-Man's been getting good reviews, I'm sure it's gonna be great. If you have to choose one, I mean, if you already saw Baby Driver, cool, go see Spider-Man. If you have to, I can't adequately judge it against a movie I have not seen yet, but I can't see Spider-Man doing anything that would top this movie. I'm just saying, you need to see it, because you will love it. This is a good time for movies, guys. When our main problem is, oh, there's too many good things out in theaters at once, that's a good problem to have. You got Baby Driver, you got Spider-Man coming out, War for the Planet of the Apes will be coming out within the next few weeks. It's just gonna be just a fantastic time to go to the movie theaters, and this should be one of the films you check out. I don't have a ton else to say, guys. I think I'm blocked back into the it's so good mode. I'm done. I've expended all of my critique skills, and now I'm just begging you, the audience, to go watch the movie. But anyway, have you guys seen it? Are you going to see it? What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on Edgar Wright in general? What do you think of his movies? What's your favorite one? That's another tough one. I'm gonna say it's either Baby Driver or Hot Fuzz. Like, Edgar Wright, those are his two best movies. Alright, that's enough positivity. Let's get into some comments. Ooh, yeah. Specifically this comment right here, I don't know what to make of it. This is a comment that was left in my video, is Doctor Strange the blueprint for Christian movies, or whatever it was titled. I was a fun video to make, because I legitimately think Scott Derrickson snuck some Christian themes into that movie, and I don't know, I think it's an interesting concept to kind of bring your worldview and bring what you believe in a subtle way that feels natural and feels like you're not doing it to be preachy, you're doing it because that's how you see the world. Anyway, so there was this comment left on it by Letta Mego. Doctor Strange is kitty anti-Christian propaganda. Everlasting life is a curse. Batman is kitty anti-constitution and democracy propaganda, ... It's about preparing the future sheep to be good little sheep, except being robbed and killed by industry and the US government. Okay, first off, I don't recall there being an everlasting life is a curse line in the movie. I think there's that thing where the Ancient One was kind of sticking around too much and needed to move on to bigger and better things, but I mean, it seems like she was cheating death, and like maybe she was going on to everlasting life. I honestly, it's been a while since I've seen Doctor Strange at this point, but I don't recall that actually being a thing that was in the movie. And that was their one example, and they dived straight into Batman, and I did not bring up Batman once in that review. At least I don't remember bringing up Batman at all. If it was very like a split second. They turned that into Batman is anti-constitution and anti-democracy, and can somebody explain what any of this is talking about? Look, sir or ma'am or zer or it or attack helicopter or whatever it is you are, please explain yourself. I just, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to communicate here? Anyway, enough of that garbage. And on my most recent video, the EA Battlefront 2 trailer, but with Wilhelm screams, we got this nice comment. This is perhaps the greatest trailer I've ever seen, from American Donut Wizard. Dude, guys, we did it. We did it. The best username in the game thinks my memes are dank. This is a milestone, guys. American Donut Wizard likes my stuff. What can mere men do in the face of usernames that awesome? Thank you, sir, for your comment. Thank you for your support. I mean, man. Fly on, you beautiful man. Too good for this world. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. Got a lot more Why Don't You Love videos coming out down the pipe soon, because I've seen a couple of good movies recently, specifically some good animated ones, so we'll talk about that, possibly in the next video. But until next time, God bless, and stay saucy.